Yeah, and they've given that person, someone should make a theory about that. I don't know how if they turned out to be somebody who was a good person.
But we have a few people who would like to say something to Dean, about the past, about the future. I'm actually very happy at the large number of people, especially Office of Biostatistics Research alumni. We're actually starting an association. Anyway, the first person I'd like to call on to say a few words is Peter Savage.
Thank Dean for all that he's done during the time he's here, and wish him the best of luck in his new job. It seemed to me that he's been here as long as I can remember, and I realized when I started talking about it to a couple of people today that he came about a year after I did. So I personally have had numerous conversations with him about problems related to some of our studies. He's always been very helpful and very practical, and I think that's the feeling of an awful lot of the other people who have been able to work with him, and we're going to miss him. Certainly, though, we wish you the best of luck in the new job, and it looks like it really offers a great opportunity to you.
Crochan, a current colleague.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is, you son of a bitch. Or as my boss used to, my ex-boss used to say, there are a lot of sunny beaches. But you know, when I first came to NIH, when I met Dean, I said, "Oh hell yeah!" I was, you know, because there were some pretty weird people at that time. You know, none of the people who are currently here, but you know, just think back and you'll remember a few weird people. And so I was so relieved to see Dean. But then when I gave my talk when I first came to NIH, he just honed in on the weaknesses. Most people, no one else had any comments. This is typical Dean. He not only understood everything the first time, but he just went right in for the weakness and said, but doesn't that, you know, cause, you know, I forget exactly what it was. It's hard to imagine if there were any weaknesses in that talk. But Dean found the one that bothered me most, and so that's typical. Now, I just wanted to say, you know, a little bit about great moments in Dean history. And I think one of the great moments was, remember when we came back from Philadelphia with Joanna, and we were on that nah kick. For a long time, Dean and I would say, you know, we'd ask each other a question, and then the other one would say, nah. And this was driving Joanna crazy. So the entire time back from Philadelphia, we did that. Nah, and then, you know, Dean would say, did you say nah? And I'd say, yeah, nah. And so that was I thought that was a great one. And then how about, you know, those canoe trips where we slammed down a few cold ones and then tried to chase these cows that were in the water. And you know, it was a great idea. It was a lot of fun until they, instead of moving out of the way, they were trying to get out of the way, and they got right in the way, and we came very close to hitting this poor cow. But, you know, so that was another great moment. Working together has been great, too, because, you know, my strengths are his weaknesses and vice versa. I mean, we really seem to... we had so many times when we worked together, and Dean would say, why don't you just look at it this way? And I realized, oh yeah, that just you know, that just makes it so simple, and it's gone, you know, both ways. You know, now we're at different institutes, at least for the time being. What I mean is that Dean is he's undoubtedly going to come back. And, you know, now Dean is going, what a messed up institute this is. NIAID, and they work on AIDS, and what do they call it? They don't call it NIAID, they call it NIAID. You know, what kind of an institute is he going to? But, you know, I thought of one thing. We were thinking about moving, and I think Nancy got us out of that perhaps, which is good. But then I thought, gee, what if we moved right over there to, right next to Dean, you know? We could move over to that same building, and then it'd be like old times. We wanted to, we got Dean a present, and so we'd like to have you come on up here. Now, when you open this, I'll explain a little bit about this. You're scaring me, Mike.
Oh, it's a diploma.
Yeah, it's a diploma. Now, let me just explain, before you read this, or before I read it, or whoever reads it, Dean is excellent at presentations. You know, when he gives a talk, it's always beautiful. It's really, you know, I say beautiful, but it is really beautiful when he gives a talk. And he's a master of color. He knows exactly when to use different colors and when it would be inappropriate. But he's also engaged in some inappropriate behavior at times. And there was an incident where he sent some email and said that someone's order was ready. And he added a few words to that, which I won't go into, but it was totally inappropriate. That's why we gave him this diploma for Master of Color and Off Color. And for exceptional ability to color our world. Now, I originally suggested something a little bit more than that, but they thought that might not be appropriate, so we'll leave it at that. And,
Thank you very much.
But, you know, I just want to end by saying that there's nobody who's going to miss Dean more than I am, and I'm awfully glad he's just right across the street. Yeah, literally.
Denise, please.
So I came here in 1992, and I just found out today that Dean had been here 4 years already by that time. And when I came, I worked with a bunch of statisticians. I worked with Sally, I worked with Joanna, I worked with Mike Prochin, I worked with Myron, I worked with Mario on all of our studies. But I had never worked with Dean. I thought, who is that guy, Dean? You know, he worked on totally different studies than I was on. He was on these, you know, big clinical trials that had events as outcomes. I was on these little clinical trials that had blood pressure and fitness and LDL cholesterol as outcomes. And, you know, I didn't really know Dean for many years. Then came Accord, and we added Dean to the Accord staff, and one of many people on the Accord staff. And as you all know, this is a huge study, and Dean's contributions to Accord, I must say, have been great. So I worked with him for about 3 years now, I guess, on Accord, and he's been just terrific. We did have to drag him kicking and screaming to develop a document with stringent stopping guidelines for Dr. L'Enfant, and he'll probably going to be glad that he doesn't have to be here when we actually implement the stopping guidelines. But you know, after much pushing and prodding, he helped us with that, and the document came out great, and Mike helped also. Thank goodness Mike is going to replace Dean on Accord. I'm a little worried about his statement about being in different institutes for the time being. You know, if Dean steals people from here, we're not going to be very happy. It's bad enough having him leave. I have a message from the Accord Coordinating Center. They say that Dean is a great guy. He's really nice, besides being smart. They loved him, and they'll miss him. they hope NIAID drives him crazy, so he realizes what a good thing he had at NHLBI. And I must say I agree with that, and maybe if he hates it over there, maybe he can come back. And I'm going to miss him, and I learned a lot from him working on One Accord, and just good luck, Dean.
One, though, comes from, and I'm going to get this ready here, comes from when I first left NHLBI for the NCI. You know how you started, when you're starting a new job, you're kind of a little insecure, you don't know, you're thinking you might not be up to the task. You know what I mean, Dean? So you're a little nervous about it. Well, so my first day on my answering machine, this is what I get on my answering machine. And to set this up, Dean and Mike are supposedly in their office, and they're in their office and they're talking about me. By mistake, they pushed my button. He has a speed dial. He doesn't really have a speed dial on mine, but he supposedly pushes the button for the speed dial to call my number, and they're talking about me by mistake. And this is what I found on my answering machine. So let me play this. And by the way, I saved this. I knew this would be valuable someday. So when you get an answering machine, you put it on, you save it, and every month they say, "Do you want to delete this?" And you have to go through the whole process. I did that 43 times. Okay, so let me.
Old archived messages. Main menu.
It's too fast.
Explain the ball that they're thinking on food to be I don't think they're, how he explains
But let me fix this. Hold on. Let me fix it. 1 second. I'm gonna fix this one. Okay, wait.
Menu. To review all you have no unheard voice messages. First archived message. So how would you explain to Paul that thinking on those two papers you did is completely wrong? I don't think no matter how we explain it to him, he won't understand it, but if we write a letter to the editor as we must, he would understand. Paul would be very embarrassed. So what can we do? Well, we have to write the letter to the editor. We don't have any choice. I know. He's going to be incredibly embarrassed. Well, what can we do? He does not integrate, frankly. Well, that's the problem. He didn't even know what a random variable was. That's tough. I feel sorry for Paul.
So who's incredibly embarrassed now? But all kidding aside, Dean, I'm sure, will be missed. I'm sure he'll in his new job, when he builds a new branch, I hope he builds a branch almost as good as this one, because that would be a great accomplishment.
You will be missed message. You've heard that several times from me, but I will reminisce a little bit. When you were first here, I think we worked together on some of your first assignments, the TOP2 study and the PATH study, and you got introduced to the wonderful world of lifestyle and blood pressure trials. See, he didn't miss that, Denise. He did get it. Which unfortunately didn't fatten your CV very much, but hopefully contributed something to your fund of experience and allowed you a graduation to clinical trials with trials with clinical endpoints. We both worked together on BEST and suffered through many DSMB meetings, as you'll remember, which presented one of the most interesting and protracted sets of discussions about stopping a trial I think we've either experienced. But all that could not, even all that couldn't have prepared you for ACCORD. In ACCORD, you've been part of creating 2 separate protocols, all the on-again, off-again decision-making, and as Denise said, the most elaborate stopping guidelines ever constructed by man or woman. Dean's contributions to the trials here, I sort of think back to what was said about Gene Harris, who was a contracting officer here, from a different perspective. But it's like having an extra project officer because it's goes beyond the statistical aspects and goes into